Alright, it's getting along there. It's taking longer than I thought because I didn't have any dry wood. Now what I'm going to do is I've got this little container of water. I'm just going to take some of the chips and put them in there to soak. So basically the way the smoking works is I got my pucks that I add for fuel instead of what a lot of people use as charcoal. I use my pucks. And then for the smoke, I got the soaked chips. And you don't need to soak that whole container. Even what I just put in there is probably good for a day of smoking. Like, I don't know, 2 cups of chips or something like that. This is probably good. So that's basically what you do. You feed it fuel as required and wet chips as required. You obviously want to keep it burning but not flaming like this. Flame once it gets going better. When you see a flame like that, you'll take a little bit of chips and put it. And what I use for putting the chips in, I have this long stainless spoon. It's longer than a regular one. It's probably 15 inches or something like that. And I basically just take some chips and then I can spoon them in. I'm not going to do it now because it's not ready for that yet. I've got to let this get going a little bit better to get a few more coals in there before I start my actual smoking. Alright, it's smoking really well. I threw a couple of pucks on there and I think the coals are going well enough to smoke, but I'm just going to let it go a little bit more to see if those pucks will catch on. I think by the looks of it, it will. There's no flame in there right now, so in theory I could start it, but I just spent a few minutes actually blowing on it to get it going a little bit better. And when you're blowing, you don't want any meat up top because the blowing causes ashes to blow around and that can get up and onto your meat. So you want to make sure all the blowing is done before the meat makes its way to the smoker. But I think we're going to be okay here now. We'll see. Give it another 5 minutes and we'll see. Alright, I think we're ready for the grates. Now, I can't remember. I'm going to have to double check the size of the slab of bacon I got, whether or not it's going to fit on that smaller one. So we'll see in a minute whether or not that's good. It looks like my pucks are starting to get charred around the outside, so I think we're going to be good to go here. And the lid's going to go on, my bacon on there, and away we go. Well, I think we're ready. So there's my slab of bacon. Looks like it's going to fit on that top rack. Well, let's just see here. Typically want to smoke it with the fat up. Fits on there just fine. I'll start my timer. It's 12 noon. And I'm going to want to go 2 or 3 hours on there. Keep it smoking. Basically, I just want the smoke. I don't really want any heat off of it. And that's about it. And it's doing well. We'll keep you posted. Oh baby, she's smoking good. This is one thing I don't like about these bullet smokers, is that they're damn inefficient. It's just mostly all wasted smoke and wasted fuel and so forth. I do have this fancy idea of building myself a decent smoker this summer, but I got the book for it and everything. But with a new baby on the way in about 6 weeks, I just don't know how much time I'm going to have for that. This does a good job. I just wish I had something that were more efficient at it. Alright, it's 35 minutes. We're just going to take a peek at it for the heck of it. Well, it's not too smoky at this point on the top. Not even underneath. And we'll just leave it be. Not too much going on at 35 minutes. Just a quick word on this thermometer. all it says is warm, ideal, and hot. It doesn't really tell you the temperature, and I honestly don't care anyway. I don't do cooking in here. I like to keep it on the low end actually. It's just above warm, just barely into the quote-unquote ideal area. And I like to keep it nice and low like that because I really don't want to cook in there. I'm just smoking. Some people in their smokers, they do the cooking too. I don't. But normally when I'm doing a bunch of meat in the summer for barbecue, I will smoke it on here and then finish it off on the propane grill. Alright, it's an hour now and the smoke is dying down here a fair bit, which means it must need to be fed. I've actually fed it a few times in the interim. I can see most of the puck there. There's a couple of pucks there. You want to be careful when you're moving stuff around. As I mentioned before, the ash, if you're poking it around here, it could get the ash to fly up and get on your meat, which is a bad thing, obviously. So I'm just going to toss in a couple more pucks. It's been a whole hour and I haven't even had to add any chips yet. That's the wonderful thing about using these pucks is that as opposed to using charcoal, you get a nice good smoke flavor off of that burning, and it usually burns kind of slowly. So a lot of times you don't even need the chips, and so far I haven't needed them. So I'm just going to put a couple more pucks in there. I've let it get a little bit too low right now. I may have to get that blowtorch out. We'll see. That may not catch fire again. Alright, it's not looking so good, so I'm just going to give it a little charge with the torch. No big deal. That stuff happens. Probably just like a minute or so of this and it'll be back to normal. Now it'll flame for a couple of minutes, and which we don't want. We don't want the flame, but my temperature is low enough now that I'm not too worried about a bit of flame. And once it flames for a couple of minutes, I'm going to add some... Oh no, there, the flame's out, so I'm probably good. I was going to say once it flames for a couple of minutes I'll add some chips, but looking like I'm not going to have to. I think I'll get this fella going again. And we won't even need chips. Yeah, actually it's starting to smoke really nicely there. I just had to give it maybe 1 minute of charge with the blowtorch, and I think she'll be going great there. And I still haven't added any chips to it. It's just been smoking, smoking nicely there for a little over an hour now. Alright, it's about an hour and 45 minutes now. It did actually get going, it did actually get going really well from that short burst of the propane torch. You can see it smoking away. I still haven't added it. Yes, it's smoking very well. I still haven't had to add any chips actually. It's just been after I gave it that burst of propane, it started smoking well, and it's still smoking. Let's have a look. I don't think there's any flames. No flames yet, and there's still a couple of whole pucks in there. So it looks like we're not going to need any chips at all. That's what I like about using those pucks, is you can pretty much smoke just with them, and since it's apple wood that I'm using right now, or whatever wood you happen to be using, you get the flavor from it too, just as your fuel.